BOMESI, please give me a warm welcome, round of applause, and welcome the incredibly brilliant Nate Parker. We're so happy. Detroit, man. Give it up for them. That's right. We got the brilliant Nate Parker in the house tonight. First of all, how you feeling today, brother?
I'm better now. I feel
good, right?
It's always great to be in this city.
That's right.
When we talk about culture, when we talk about history, you can't speak those words without mentioning Detroit, so I'm very happy to be here.
You cannot, and you've made such a great impact in those exact areas, right? Culture, history. So let's talk a little bit about it, man. Speaking of history, you were responsible for developing, producing, writing, directing, and starring in the Sundance-winning film Birth of a Nation. Give it up for Birth of a Nation. That's right. And you also sold that film in a record-shattering deal. So talk to me about that deal with Fox Searchlight and how it felt as a black creator to kind of have your work received at that level, Nate.
Thanks for the question. First, before we start, I want to give some love to Ronisha and Davon. The fact they put this together. I think sometimes we underestimate all that goes into creating these platforms and safe spaces where we can talk about not only where we're going, but where we are. I think it's obvious to everyone in this room that we are at an intersection, and it's going to require the type of attention of the people in this room to create action and strategy and tactical around getting us to the next step of whatever Black-owned media might be, not just here, but globally. So the fact that we have this space, this beautiful space, you know, everywhere I look, there's fresh, live plants. It is, you can tell that there's someone back there who's like, yeah, they make sure we're on point. I said, they're supposed to, because perception matters. And when we're representing so many people that are not here, we have to know that when we walk into this space, and people that walk into space that have the ability to push our agendas forward, they want to know that we're serious as well. And we are an excellent people, you all know that. So I just want to give a shout out to the founders for founding this safe space for us to have these conversations that move us forward. So give them a round.
Yes, absolutely. Give it up.
And now I'll get to the question. And it's tricky because I think the trap as a creator is to buy too deeply into this idea of one at a time when it comes to our successes. So when people ask me about what was it like to win the Sundance and shatter the record, I try to be as polite as possible in saying it was great to be recognized for something. I mean, especially Nat Turner, a revolutionary, was more Braveheart than anything else. But the reality is, I was the exception to the rule, not the rule. Even more so now, if anyone has attended a film festival where there were many buyers before, we're in a situation now where you can have 6,000 submissions, 75 acceptances, and 6 sales. And a lot of the times, those 6 sales aren't even people who look like us. So our blood, sweat, and tears go into creating debt for a product that often sits on a shelf. So while I was excited, that excitement was in many ways short-lived because all I could think about was every other film that was showing while my film was showing, and those people not being able to go because the consensus was, oh, okay, well, I guess that's the black film for this year. And many of them are my friends. I want to give a shout out to Qasim Basir. Will you please stand up, brother? He is an artist and humble, but I want him to stand up. Stand up for one moment. He actually has a film in theaters right now, To Live and Die and Live. If you can, go check it out. It's an extraordinary film. It deals with many of the current issues we're dealing with in our community, specifically mental health with black men, and it's doing extremely well. This is a man that bootstrapped the film, like he always does, called the theaters himself because he couldn't get theatrical distribution, and literally said, I have a film. I think it's very good. This is the energy around it. Here are the posts. Will you program it? And they said yes. So you can sit, but give him a hand for. Now again, it's beautiful and tragic because this brother is the exception to the rule. He's Detroit's very own. His office is walking distance from where we are, and I thought it fitting. Everywhere I go, I'm looking for creators who are architects, who are building on the road, not just commenting on the potholes, and he is one of them. We have to figure out ways to scale Qasim, to scale events like the birth of a nation, because what that's supposed to say is, wow, here's a film that has major distribution, it broke records, it's a film about counterculture, revolutionary, with a religious lightning bolt of a preacher that prayed to God for a sign that he might fight against the institution of slavery. If you pitch that to investors, how many of you think that you're going to get investment from the regular? You're not.
Y'all laugh. They literally started laughing when you asked.
But that shows where we are when so much of black-owned media is about elevating people that the people that can actually shift their lives and circumstances ignore. So the real questions we should be asking is, how do we stand at the intersection and push this initiative forward so there are Cosms as young men, young women that not only dream of creating content, but once they make it, aren't just sitting there with a piece of debt that they can't take to distribution. So that was the takeaway from me. While I saw this tremendous moment, I recognized very quickly, maybe because I'm sometimes cynical, that it was just a moment. I could not be used as the exception to define the rule to so many people like Awesome, who films are showing are just as good but won't get distribution, which is why I started a distribution platform.
So let's talk about that. And before we go too far away, what was the name of this brother's film?
To Live and Die and Live.
To Live and Die and Live. Now y'all got it?
I'll go off script real quick. We're gonna create a media moment. Come here, Cosmo.
That's right, give it up. Use your notebooks and your pens. Write the name of that movie down. So y'all can
I'll give you the mic. You just tell them a bit about your film, where it's showing, and there you go.
Sorry.
And
gotta
then
take
you
the
can
steps next time. Hey, next time you go to them steps.
Liability stuff there about me jumping up. Don't worry, I used to be an athlete just like this brother. It's called To Live and Die and Live. It also premiered at Sundance a couple years ago. And that's the thing, it was one of those films that did not get distribution. Then we were coming out of the pandemic into a strike, and there was a moment where not many films were getting picked up, and ours was one of them. And we got close to a few deals over the years, and finally it was like, no, we're putting this movie out. And so, like you said, we called AMC Theaters, called Imagine Theaters, like, look, we got the Sundance movie. Our movie's at, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. What do you call it? Racist tomatoes. Sorry. But yeah, it has Eamon Joseph, Omari Hardwick, Sky P. Marshall, Corey Hardwick, it's...
1 second, and that's interesting. Everyone's saying, huh? What?
Right,
huh?
yeah.
What? Because we create these things, yet lack the infrastructure to be able to make sure they find the audience that are looking for that piece of content. Continue, brother.
And so, with all of that, the theater was like, okay, we'll do it. And our film opened Friday, May 30th, in about 15 cities.
Clap for that. Clap for that,
So, literally a week ago today it opened, and it's still in some theaters now. So, yeah, go see it, and it'll be out on digital July 4th. But thank you for that, brother.
Go this way. Take them steps. Okay?
We're getting old.
We got insurance, but we ain't, there you go. Go ahead, take the steps. Now that was beautiful to see though, Nate. I'm so glad that we had that moment in front of the audience because it was so indicative of the work that you're doing with Mansa, right? So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the importance of highlighting these brilliant creators and what your inspiration was behind that, because as a director, as an actor, as a screenwriter, and having over 20 years of experience, I think it'll be important for the people to know what made you know that it was the right time for Mansa to exist. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. So when you turn on your devices, your CTV, your mobile, and you see the content that is put in front of you, if you only looked at that content and used that to represent the entire diaspora, you would have a very broken idea of who we are globally as a people, right? I like to believe, and I'm sure you all believe, that we're not in a moment where there's a lack of capacity. There's just a lack of cultivation. There's a lack of clear direction as to how you go from idea to hearts and minds. A lot of that has to do with being undercapitalized. A lot of it has to be with lacking information and data. But for the most part, it's lack of access to meaningful distribution, where the thing that you have created has the ability to be found by the people who are looking for it. A film on a film that is worthy of theatrical release, that is on a shelf for 2 years, that it takes one person, who is the exception, because he's had made 6 movies? Fourth, and you did a couple other like documentaries and shows, right. But some people don't have an agent. This brother's was a fantastic agent, and still has these issues. So, are you guys familiar with David Oyelowo? Yeah. So David Oyelowo is my best friend and co-founder in Mansa. And what we did, and it was important that he and we feel like it is literally divine that we became so close with a film called Red Tails, is that he is a brother of Nigerian descent by way of London. Right? I'm a brother of African American descent by way of Norfolk, Virginia. Any VA people? Hey, let's go. Okay.
We're up to down.
Right? So we found it. So as we sat around complaining about our circumstance, out of that came this kind of action, this call to action. Well, what should we do? And so the fact that he comes, he's lived in 6 countries, right? Like I said, by way of London, and there's this kind of stigma of, the British people are getting all the jobs. There are all these friction points because we don't control media. We said it would be, if you coming from the UK, me coming from the United States of America, start a company that with a global ambition and throw everything that we are behind it, let's see what happens. So Mansa was born. And Mansa is an AVOD streaming platform that brings curated black culture to the world. A couple words to recognize: curated. Not all content is created equal. I think there's room for it all. But when one sliver of it becomes the whole, it becomes problematic, not just for us, but for everyone. Not just about how other people think of us, but how we are conditioned to see ourselves. So we said, if we can create a groundswell, what we call pipes underneath the house, so that when we turn on a faucet, we know water is gonna come out, we know we can have sustenance, then that is something that we can scale, and all the people in this room can be thinking about, okay, there's a platform where these things can live, that honors the creator, that hits the friction points of ownership, audience ownership, and data. Because when anyone that knows anything about Hollywood, you ain't owning nothing. And you won't know who's watching, who's not watching. There is no data, and there are very clear barriers between you and your audience. What does that mean? That means every project, you're reinventing the wheel. You can't rely, one second, brother. You can't rely on what your last film did to make sure the new people come, and they come. Why? Because you don't have the data. Some of the films, this is the interesting thing that I learned in being an entrepreneur, starting a business. This is one of the most interesting things I learned. You'll go and you'll license a piece of content that is dope. Like, this is dope. You'll put it on the platform, paying the license fee, and then you'll get an email from the person who made it. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. How'd you get it? And you're thinking to yourself, what do you mean? This was the first couple months of having licensed material. And you realize that you make something, you give it away, then you start over. There can be no generational wealth if you don't own anything. So how do we repair that link? If we're thinking of, and there are all types of people in this audience, right? If we're really looking to solve problems and not just service, diversity, mandate, Black History Month, whatever. But if we're really looking to collaborate and build together, we have to think of all the ways in which these chains are broken and then repair links. But we can't repair those links about being honest about where we actually are. We're telling our young creators, go make stuff. Be authentic, go make stuff. Then they make stuff, they have their products, and they have nowhere to go. That is what we're looking to solve for. If it's true that black culture leads world culture, if it's true that black culture really sets the pace for most things that are cool, most things that drive eyeballs to advertisements, if that's all true, then we need better support systems for the people that are actually, with their blood and sweat, creating the economies around us without owning any of the economies around us.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Speaking of that, y'all can clap for that. Glad I let you finish, because you brought up the creator economy, right? And it's such an important piece. Why don't you say a little bit to our audience about how you think the creator economy is going to shape the future of streaming and media overall, Nate?
Well, thank you for that question. I think if it's true that the creator economy is a $600 billion market in the next 6 or 7 years, if that's true, and Hollywood did 14 billion last year, then there's a tremendous opportunity in front of us. And so what some people may ask, what is the creator economy? And I'll describe it as I see it. The creator economy is access to individuals, to their audience, by way of tools that allow them to circumvent all partitions in front of them. Traditionally, I've been in the business 22 years now. When you came into this industry, the only things accessible to you were the things that the industry told you were accessible. So when I came into business as an actor, I can remember my first couple of roles, as you can imagine. And it was like, okay, I get a call from my manager. We got one. Okay, cool. You got an audition coming up on Wednesday. I'm like, yes, we're gonna coach or whatever. And it's like, pimp number 3. I'm so serious. So now you're in a theater that is rented with your acting coach who is, does not look like you, and you're pimp number 3 and he's pimp number 2. Right? And you're in some side street and it's like, hey man, where's she at? I'm gonna go if I can. And you're having to black it up to be pimp number 3 and be serious. Then you walk into a room with people who don't look like you, and you are doing your very best to sell them that you can be pimp number 3. And I early on said, if my grandmother from Norfolk, Virginia sees this role, she's not gonna understand that you have to start small. You gotta play pimp number 3, then drug dealer number 2, then hustler number 1, then you get a good job. She's not gonna understand that. She's just gonna call me and say, grandson, I don't understand. And so I was clearly like, no, we're not gonna do that. So how do I self-start my way into a better decision? That, to me, is the beginning of the creator economy. When you realize your success is not dependent on the rules and narrow lanes someone creates for you, but really on your ability, through prayer and petition, and hustle and work, and this type of thing, solidarity, to create the future you want to see for the people coming behind you. And it's happening. It's happening in a way that I've never seen it. In some ways, Ryan Coogler is a part of the creator economy because he is bootstrapped. He's had that script since coming out of college, waiting for the right time to push it forward. Unfortunately, he had to have, 4 films cross $200 million to get the green light to make the thing he wanted to make. And that, brother, is the exception to the rule. But what is happening is the rule is starting to change. And this is a message not for just the people that own the media, but all for the advertisers and the sponsors. You're going to see a groundswell of young people like Qasim all across media, whether it be long form, short form, UGC, podcast. Audiences are becoming so agnostic to what format is and the rules. In fact, rebellious to what the rules are, that we're going to have to adopt and adapt to them, or we will evaporate. And all the people in this room will be sitting around tables like, remember when we were in that thing? It's like what they said about AI, right? Oh, AI is here and it ain't going nowhere. And guess who's using AI more than anyone to circumvent those barriers? The creator economy. They are finding ways to find their audience and keep their audience. And their audience are becoming loyal, not to a platform, right? Not to the industry, but to the people that put money directly into their pockets. So if we're not conforming and contorting into ways to satisfy them, we will evaporate. So Mansa is very much involved with creators, creating collectives, creating tools for young people, and guidance for young people. One of the things that we lack in our community, I was just talking to Devon, is leadership of elders. And that is not what we've done to ourselves, but what has been done to us in our tenure in this country. There's been a disconnect from the wisdom that comes from your fathers, mothers. So many of us are starting from scratch, but that's changing too, because we're becoming a globalized economy. Technology, what is that? I heard a stat the other day that we have seen more technological developments in the last 15 years than since the beginning of humanity. If that is true, things are going to continue to move very, very quickly. And I think it will behoove us to pay attention to what young people are saying, what they're doing, and how they're doing it. And that, at Mansa, that is our goal. Follow the young people, align them with elders and older people. So in Mansa, you can find a short form series while it being next to an Idris Elba feature film. Why? Because moving forward isn't just about leaving what's behind, if anyone's familiar with Sankofa. It's about understanding what came before you, the egg, and bringing it with you forward. So we're adopting those type of ideas because we think that that type of step into the continent, the diaspora, is not trying to recolonize. We can't bring a colonizer's mentality into Nigeria, into Kenya, into Haiti, and expect a different result. In fact, they're rejecting those things, which is why a lot of those streamers that have tried to plant their flag there have failed. They're waking up. Africa is waking up. They do not want to be further colonized. So work with them or don't go. Collaboration is the future. Creator self-starting is the future. Brands will still need to sell stuff. That's always going to be there. And hopefully black-owned media will always want to expand. Because what are we now, at 4%? You know, I mean, you think about the beginning of black-owned media in the Freedmen's Journal back in the 19th century, with liberated enslaved people starting the first black-owned media platform, and then where we are, 4%. So we can praise ourselves for existence, or we can question ourselves for our lack of growth. Like I said, some of this has been done to us, but a lot of it is about how we've been conditioned to see ourselves. That needs to change, and that's what this is about.
So with such a clear understanding of the creator economy, right, and as an actor, a director, a writer, a performer in general, you have an understanding of the needs of the creator. I thought it was so beautiful that you had the ode to creators on the Mansa website, and I love how you said that we are not a pawn shop, your gold is safe with us, come create with us. So talk to me about how you can ensure safety and protection for the creators on Mansa before we wrap up.
But great question. Well, we have to be clear that the idea of walking into a relationship with the sole purpose of creating transactions is not a relationship. It just isn't. You have to go in wanting community more than anything else. And I think if you want community, then there's an opportunity for you to share in ways that transfers value from one side to the other. You know, for our sponsors in the room, there is value that goes both ways. It has to go both ways. For our black-owned media companies, value has to go both ways. Specifically with black-owned media, because we are in such situations where we're undercapitalized, under-recognized, under-celebrated, we find ourselves in situations where whenever it's time to grow, what are we thinking about? Revenue. What's our run rate? What's our burn rate? We have such difficulty when it comes to thinking about, well, what does our audience want? How do we create value for the person on the other side of that glass? We're in a tight situation. So what we have to do is approach it from the standpoint, when we say your goal is safe with us, we're not, when you walk in with content or a piece of jewelry into a pawn shop, the pawn shop owner's job is to what? Anyone. Lowball you. Extract as much value while giving as little as possible. We see that a lot, right? And sometimes we feel it's out of necessity. Well, that's capitalism, that's the United States. Well, it's not the way forward. It just isn't. People will recognize, just like where I'm from, where Virginia Beach at? There you go. Where I'm from, if you act like a victim, you'll get victimized. The streets are very clear. Detroit, the streets are very clear. So if we're in a constant scarcity state, looking to hustle someone, looking for them to hustle us, yeah, we'll get revenue bumps, but we'll lose the point. We won't be able to scale the thing that we're looking to do. And that really is create content that touches hearts and minds. It's the last vanguard of our collective freedom. I truly believe it. There are people that do more complicated and important things than I do on a day-to-day basis. There are doctors saving lives, but content, it is propaganda. It's been used to destroy communities and uplift generations. So if we get this right, if we protect that pathway between idea to hearts and minds, many of the things that we're complaining about will sort themselves out. Because we're creating a generation that is sensitive to a new way of thinking, a new way of coexisting. And we're not doing that right now. Content in many ways is the reason. I'm not going to get political, but I will say we're in an era where content has become the weapon to cause division, to facilitate hate and destruction, to decimate relationships across cultures, across genders. Content. Everything we learn. Who saw you know who's text yesterday? Who knows it? You know who and you know who are beefing on Twitter. Who knows? That ain't a CNN conversation. But we know. We're not reading it from the Wall Street Journal. We know, right? He said, what? Oh, drop the bomb. What do you think about that? Like, that's where we are. So that's where the attention needs to go, in my opinion. Again, Dave Vaughn, Ronisha, like, that's what this is about. We gotta be able to have these conversations in layman's terms. Because it's really easy to come here, to go to Motown, get the gift shop, which is great, then go home, and we got a little bag, and then go right back to dog eat dog. So my brother from the Shade Room, where you at, brother? Right here. Shade Room, in some ways, is our only news. Help me. I'm serious. Where's Roland at?
Roland is gone.
Huh? No, I didn't mean he was. I love Roland. I'm not saying why isn't he here? Hold on. Let me be clear. I love you, Roland, if you're listening. When I say where's Roland, I mean here's a brother. When you talk about the creator economy, for him to be where he is with respect to his maturity, who carries his entire, everywhere he goes, he takes, if you ever see Roland, he's gonna have a drag suitcase. Why? Because he does his show from wherever he's at. When whatever happened and he was not on the mainstream, he said, my audience is still there. So I say that to say, you look at the Shade Room has found a way to hold the line on our news. They're talking about current events. And I say, when I talk about Black-owned media, we are all here in separate parts. But what does it look like when the fingers make a fist?
Right.
We just don't know what that looks like, right? We talk about solidarity, but in Black-owned media, what does it look like? If we're all on these islands doing the same thing, what does it look like for us to look across to another island and say, grab my hand, let's pull our land until the edges touch?
Right.
That's where our power will be, specifically moving forward.
Well, we sure got fed. And I can tell you what, Nate, I ain't gonna evaporate. Okay, just like you said. So thank you so much for these gems, brother. It was so powerful. I'm sure we're all so inspired in this room. Tap a shoulder, connect, just like Nate said. And hey, we wish you the best of luck with Mansa. It's such a brilliant, necessary vehicle in this community. So give it up for the brilliant Dave Parker.